Hello and welcome back to the season 2 finale of Elevate. For weeks, we've talked about visibility, intent, and market authority. But tonight, we're doing something different. We're going under the hood. Marketing can bring people to your door. But if your business model is leaking or your operations are a hustle instead of a system, marketing will only kill you faster. Tonight, I'm going to be joined by Abdel Rahman in order to explain this a little bit more. Abdel Rahman, say hi.
Hi,
How are you doing, Abdel Rahman? I hope you're doing well.
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
That's great. That's great. So, Mr. Abdel Rahman, can you help us understand a little bit more about what you're going to be talking today?
Well, I'm mostly going to be diving into business solutions rather than marketing. Today is how you end up engineering the sovereign business model, i.e., the best business model that you have that you can use in a market that's heavily saturated.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. Okay. So, Mr. Abdel Rahman, people hear business solutions and they think of generic consulting firms. Break it down for the live audience. What does Businessera actually fix if it doesn't touch marketing?
I mean, there is a lot of things in a business besides marketing because let's face it, the business is a very large model actually, and marketing is merely one of the many departments a business has. So, mostly in MLT Businesserra, we're focusing on operational entropy and valuation engineering. So, one of the main things that we would touch on in Businessera is, first of all, the profit model, in which the most founders are currently trapped in linear income. They trade time for money. So we use the valuation engineering formula, i.e., the VE. So we shift the model so the business can generate value even when the founder is sleeping. So basically, we don't want to tie the profit model to the owner or the founder or the chairman or the CEO, whatever it might be, whatever title they hold. We want to strip away the control from the CEO so the CEO can focus better well on the more important parts of his business, which is his actual job to move the business. And then we have operational architecture. And we usually do this by double checking the vanish test. So, for an example, if the CEO leaves for 30 days and the business dies, then you don't really have an asset, you have a job. You became an employee, you became a slave to your own business, when it should be the other way around. Keep in mind, in the early days of your business, yes, you are a slave to your company because you need to ensure that the work flows smoothly. But if the work cannot flow smoothly without you being there, then you're kind of a slave to your own company. You are now a full-time employee rather than a CEO. So and for this case, we installed the framework dependency and we test it out with the vanish test to ensure that the business survives without the CEO being there. And then we implement the digital nervous system, whether it is an AI-based system or an automated operation system. These systems come in place to help optimize the workflow for the work and for the CEO and the business in general. It unlocks two opportunities for the business. One, it allows senior employees to be able to make decisions without the necessity of interference, without the necessity of the, tyranny above them or micromanaging. So senior employees can actually shine in this case, and the CEO gets to protect their own time without micromanaging every last thing in the operations. So
Oh,
we automate basically. We use it to cauterize friction, and we automate 80% of the administrative tasks that eat your team, so they can focus on the 20% that generates wealth.
what would you say to a businessman who isn't comfortable with allowing AI or a system to take over his job? He wouldn't trust them. And how would you try to convince him or help him understand that this is the best and most optimal way for him to move forward?
Well, first and foremost, we have to understand one thing. AI in itself is a change. And the longer we're scared of change is the longer we are delusional. So in life, change is an inevitable constant. It's the one thing that consistently happens whether you like it or not. Change is a must factor. It's an absolute factor, if you will. What does it mean? It means that as long as we understand change is an inevitable factor, we have to remember that there is two roads that this can lead into. Either you change voluntarily by yourself, or you change involuntarily by life forcing change upon you. The only difference is when I change voluntarily, I go out on my own terms. However, if I let life change me, I'm gonna become a slave to my own regrets for not wasting or for wasting the time that I did not put into change. Very important constant to understand. AIs and systems and optimization have been a part of, oh, and to be fair, AI is new, but systems and automation in general has been a very strong, solid foundation for businesses as early as the 90s, as early as the industrial era, matter of fact. The industrial revolution came in to automate, not to replace. See, the more defensive you get about thinking, oh, I'm being replaced by AI, or I'm being replaced by AI, or I'm being replaced by a system, the less space in your life you have to actually comprehend. Because we cannot lead life playing the victim, where, oh my God, I'm being replaced, or oh my God, this is this and this is affecting me. Now, the more you play the victim, the less your business advances. AI and systems aren't there to replace employees, they're there to make their lives easier. Now, misusage of AIs and systems or not understanding how to actually optimize AIs and systems makes you a slave to these systems. However, in Businessera, we do not implement modern day slavery onto these businesses. We implement modern day solutions to these businesses, i.e., these systems and the AI the driven growth systems that are in place that will be implemented is there to push the business forward, not to take over employees or CEOs' times. So the longer you're scared of the change, the longer you're deluded by it, the longer your business suffers and the further behind your business is because you're not adapting to modern day strategies. So instead of being worried about, oh, this will take over my job or the employee's job, I should be worried about, or I should be thinking about rather, how would this make my employee's job easier? How would this make my life easier? That's the correct question to be asked, not why or how would this replace me?
Okay. You also said something about the profit model, the pricing model that companies have. You talked about how you want to help businesses make money even when they're asleep, CEOs, when they're asleep, and they wouldn't need to be constantly at work. How would you go about fixing that an issue like that? And what is the exact issue that you see that a lot of businesses are having in that regard?
Again, as I said, most founders are trapped in linear income, where they do not know how their income is, or they don't know how it would fluctuate. Sometimes they would even be trapped in a circle where one day they're making, or 1 month they're making profit, the next month they're breaking even, and the month after they're actually losing. In order to suffice and build a proper system in place, you need to review the financials. First and most important part of building a pricing model is reviewing the financials, understanding where the money is being spent because again the general law of accounting is assets minus liabilities minus equity. So we have to understand how much is a liability, how much is an asset, and how much is an equity. Both equity and liabilities are any dent in my treasury, and any asset is anything I can make money off of. Simple accounting law. The more I understand this, the more I apply this, the more the more easier it becomes to implement a proper profit model in place. Hence why we do valuation engineering. We understand and we shift the model so the business generates value. Because if you are stuck in a circle where you don't know if next month you're making profit or not, then there's something wrong with your business model and specifically in your pricing model and your financial model and your profit model. So we have to peek under the hood there and understand why is there not enough money.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Then I have another question as well. You said something about helping businesses run without the CEO. Wouldn't the CEO usually be the leader or the figurehead for the business, and wouldn't it be natural if the business can't operate normally without the CEO being there?
No, this is absolute delusion.
Mhm.
The CEO is not meant to be there. A CEO is not an employee. The CEO is the chief executive officer. By nature, the title entails he is the highest authority. Highest authority does not mean micromanaging and staying out with employees and playing with them and micromanaging them. Highest authority means I need to deal with partnerships, business deals, moving the business. You need to deal with the macro side of the business. Delusion is when you think that, oh, I'm the CEO, I'm the cool guy that they have to follow. You're not the cool guy they have to follow. You set the standard by leading the business, not by leading the employees. There is a reason why supervisions and supervisors and managers exist and head of departments exist because it's not the CEO's job to lead employees to begin with. It was never the CEO's job, funny enough. The CEO's job is to lead the business, not the employees or not the people in the business.
Okay. But what about the CEO who says, I need to be there to ensure that everything is following my standard and everything is following the vision that I have for the company?
All right, no worries. I mean, completely fine. But there's this thing called delegation. There is
Hmm.
a reason why executives exist. There is a reason why a board of director exists. These people are the ones who have to uphold your vision while you're not there, and they relay it down to the employees.
Hmm.
So it doesn't have to be there 24/7 to enforce his vision. No, the vision is micro and macro, it's internal and external. Your job is to focus on the external vision, and the internal operations are held and led by the internal leaders, not by the CEO.
Hmm. That was a great answer. Thank you, Mr. Abdel Rahman. Okay. I'm going to play devil's advocate here, okay? Most founders in our chat right now think they just need more leads to solve their cash flow problems. Why should they stop spending on marketing and start spending on operations?
Very simply put, marketing is a catalyst. It accelerates what already exists. So, for an example, think of the business as a bucket. If the bucket is leaky to begin with, slapping in a tape or slapping in or adding in more water isn't exactly going to fix the leak. It's going to make the leak bigger. You do not need marketing when the business in itself is the issue. Once again, we all need marketing, yes, by all means, but marketing isn't exactly a natural solution to your business problems. Marketing is there to put you in the spotlight and generate the leads. That's it. Beyond that, marketing has nothing to do with your business. Rather, it's your internal business, i.e., the operations that need to deal with internal businesses. Because marketing can generate the leads. It doesn't matter how many leads you generate. If the bucket is leaky to begin with, you can generate 1,000 leads. But if the bucket is leaky in itself, then what assures us these leads become consumers? Again, marketing does not guarantee sales. It's not sales. And sales cannot guarantee sales either if the operation in itself is bad. So, for an example, if marketing generates you 1,000 leads and the customer's journey is very horrendous, it's neither the marketer's or the salesman job. This is something you need to revise internally,
Mhm.
not blame it on marketing. It's very easy to blame things on other departments rather than actually looking into the issue itself, because it's in human nature to try to find an excuse rather than hold themselves accountable. Because let's take a look at, simply put, right? Humans by nature look for rationalization and justifications of their actions. Why? Because it's much easier to make the decision look reasonable than it is to actually fix the mistake. So, not being honest with yourself is the first critical mistake that you commit as a CEO. You cannot consistently blame things on others. You have to actually dive into the issue itself and understand where the issue lies. The sooner you're honest with yourself, the sooner you look in the mirror, the sooner you look at your own business, the faster you realize marketing had nothing to do with it and sales had nothing to do with it. The issue lies within the business model itself. So, marketing or getting more marketing, spending more on marketing does not solve anything. It's basically wasting money. So, if you spend $10,000 on marketing, but your operations is losing 30 to 50% of those leads through friction or bad fulfillment, you just threw $3,000 to $5,000 in the trash. So operations is basically the floor and the foundation. You cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. If your structural efficiency coefficient or the SEC is low, marketing will actually kill you faster because it exposes your weakness to the entire market. Again, marketing is a different independent department. It scales what already exists. It does not create something out of thin air. If your business model is good, it accelerates that, it makes it grow. If your business model is garbage or bad or dysfunctional, then it also accelerates that. It makes it much more dysfunctional, much more chaotic because the issue lies from within, not within marketing.
Mhm. Okay. A lot of CEOs immediately will blame marketing. What system would you advise them to have in order to be able to find where if their issue is actually operations or if their issue is marketing? How would you help them diagnose their own issue in order to find out which solution would be the right solution for them?
First things first, the most important thing is to look inside the mirror. That's the first things first. In order to change your business, you have to change your mindset. In order to change anything in your life, you have to change your mindset. Change begins within oneself, not within one's business. If you are consistently blaming marketing, then the issue clearly lies within you. It's not within the business. Once I take a look in the mirror, understand where I went wrong, what are my shortcomings, only then will I be able to actually self-diagnose my own business. Keep in mind, diagnosing a business is not something easy. There are some things that are under the belt that you would not pay attention to. And in order to have that vision, again, you need to change yourself. I don't know why many people are scared of change. Change is not scary. Change is inevitable. I'd rather I change on my own terms than have life force me to change and then become a slave to my own regret. No, why didn't I change earlier? Look how much I lost money. Simple. Regret in itself is the biggest motivator for people to stay lazy. So, in order to actually differentiate between marketing and operations, you have to first look in the mirror. This is the most important advice anyone can get from anyone. Look in the mirror. Don't let, I'm not going to criticize you. Look in the mirror. You need to criticize your own self. If you are not able to criticize yourself, then there is a problem within you. There is nothing called, oh, I am perfect. I'm content with how I'm living. No, you're always going to have a shortcoming. Always. The sooner you pick up on that shortcoming, the quicker you recover. So, first and foremost, after looking in the mirror comes in the second part. Marketing in itself, as we established, is an independent catalyst. Marketers do not really guarantee you results. Like the only results we can guarantee is we'll get you leads. Beyond these leads, it's your job to close them, not ours. Otherwise, it becomes a sales marketing issue. Right? It becomes a sales marketing agreement. It's no longer a marketing agreement. We do not close leads, we generate them. So once these leads are generated, it becomes your problem or your concern to close these leads. And now it's your responsibility. I've taken out the leads, I've done my part of the deal. Now it's your part of the deal, which is to close these leads. It becomes a marketing problem when there are no leads to begin with. Right? If the marketing department isn't generating leads, then there's an issue with marketing. But if the leads are there, but the leads aren't being closed, it's not really a marketing problem because marketing never guaranteed we're going to close leads or you're going to sell. No, we guaranteed you're going to get leads. Simply put. So if there are leads and they're not being closed, it's a business issue. If there are no leads, then there is nothing to close. It's a marketing issue. And in order to actually be able to differentiate between both, you have to go back to the point zero or the original point of the philosophy, which is look in the mirror. If you cannot determine your own flaws, you will never be able to see the problems within your own business.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm. Beautifully said. Okay. Could you give us an example here of a CEO who was able to find his own organizational leak, fix it, and change his business completely?
You can take any example in the world. All businessmen can do that. It's not exactly a skill that you pick up or a miracle that befalls upon you. Anyone can do that. Anyone can fix the business. See, the difference between business solutions is business solutions isn't there to fix your own problems. It's to establish these problems as potential opportunities. That's the difference between business solutions and business development. Business solutions is a field that ensures that these problems are dealt with and turned into opportunities for growth. It's a scalable field. It's not a field that where I come and diagnose your problem and fix it for you. That's a janitor's job, and it's an electrician's job and a plumber's job. They see the toilet is leaking, time to bring a plumber. This is fixing a problem. Business solutions isn't fixing a problem. It's turning a problem into an opportunity. And when that happens, only then will you realize the true value of business solutions, because anyone can fix their own problems. The only difference is, can you turn that problem into an opportunity? Not many can.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, because a lot of CEOs might see that they have operational issues, but they might say that it's been working for me fine, and my company is generating profit. Why would I need a business solutions in order to help me fix this issue? How would you go about explaining to them?
Anyone who starts a business is a businessman. The sole purpose of a business is to make profit, and the other purpose of a business is to fix a problem. So by nature, as an entrepreneur or a businessman, you're there to fix problems. See, the only problem with that is you're so focused on fixing a certain problem in the market, you forgot the problems in your own house. Now, if your profit margins are well and good enough, a true businessman, a proper entrepreneur, would not stop at nothing. Keep in mind, businessmen differ from the rest of the planet because of one key factor, which is ambition. There is no CEO on the planet that's content with average or I'm making profit. No one is content with that. Only average people are. Only employees are. Keep that in mind. An employee would be like, oh, I have a good salary. I don't want to switch, even if I got paid more. Why would I get paid more? I have a good salary. A businessman does not look at it that way, because a businessman is not average. They're driven by ambition. Creating a business requires a man with unshakable standards, i.e., when I start a business, this business is meant to retire me. So, when a business is meant to retire me, settling for average isn't enough. You're not going to retire on barely breaking even or being barely above profit. That doesn't retire anyone. No, matter of fact, that reinforces you to work even more, because no one is going to deny more money and no one is going to deny more profit. Now, there is another factor that drives businessmen: legacy. Legacy, if you're not concerned with money, then you're concerned with legacy. You want to set a foothold onto this world. And they don't do that by caring about average. The idea of I am making money, or this is a simpleton's idea. This is for average people, not for businessmen, because businessmen have always been ambitious, regardless of the field they're in, regardless of what problem they're trying to solve. All of them have been ambitious. You can take a look at all of the businessmen in the world. They have one thing in common: they do not settle for average. Jeff Bezos could have stopped at Amazon, yet now he builds internet servers, and now he has database clouds and even more. Same thing with Elon Musk. He could have just settled for Teslas. Now he's building rockets. Same thing with Mark Zuckerberg. He could have settled for Facebook, but now he owns the social media. No one settles for average. No one, except simpletons. Which, again, there is no issue with you being a simpleton, but you cannot act like a businessman if you're a simpleton. You're an employee. So leave the business, dust your shoes, go back into the job market. Leave the business, because the business requires strong, ambitious, strong-willed men, not an average person who cannot see opportunity.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as a person who follows legacy or profit?
I follow neither. I'm a servant of the truth. Simply put, I see an issue where it is, I say it as it is. I don't need to follow either. You see, businessmen or business in general is a beautiful field to be in if you know what you're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be gambling. You're basically gambling in this point. But not me. You see, I differ from the rest of the businessmen because I chase neither. The faster you chase something, the faster it crumbles you. Rather, I am a man who's content with being a servant to the truth, i.e., I tell people as it is. If they make money, I make money. Simply put, if they lose money, I also lose money. So it's a trading, or it's an equal, or
A two-way.
solely mutual beneficent. All right, it's a mutually beneficent road that you're passing through here. And that road is built on truth. The more you lie to a client, the more you lie to yourself, the more deluded you become, and the bigger of a delusion you sell to a client. Because if I tell a client, oh, I'm gonna be selling, I'm gonna guarantee you ROI of 900% within 3 months. Not a single business on this planet can do that. You cannot guarantee 900% ROI in 3 months. There is no way. It is mathematically impossible to guarantee 900% ROI in a single month. Unless you're in the pornography department, then maybe. But beyond that, in an actual trading transaction environment, it's physically impossible for you to guarantee 900% ROI, right? So now you're selling this deluded idea to the client that you are arguably the best marketer who ever lived, right? You're the best businessman who ever lived. And trading in lies or trading in delusion isn't exactly the key to a successful business. Rather, it's a key to drowning in your own negative ambitions. Because keep in mind, ambition can be split into two. There is a good ambition and there's a bad ambition. A good ambition is when I know what I'm doing, I'm setting realistic goals, and I'm achieving set goals. Bad ambitions is when I delude myself. Think of it as New Year's goals. When you set New Year's goals for yourself, what happens is you set up too many goals, so much goals at one time that look delusional to begin with. Growth, progress, achievement is achieved by simply setting up proper goals for yourself, achievable goals, attainable goals, short-term goals that are reasonable, long-term goals that are achievable. Once this formula is set in place, only then will you actually progress. But looking at everything as if it's progress or achievement, you are deluding yourself. And looking and setting impossible goals, you're also deluding yourself. Also, setting impossible KPIs and ROIs, you're also deluding yourself. The problem with deluding yourself is you start deluding others around you. Now, if I'm a delusional businessman, I'm going to delude the client into thinking, oh, I am the smartest businessman who has ever lived. When in reality, it's not. Businessmen aren't smart. They're not intellectuals. They're not intelligent. Businessmen are people who deal with opportunities. They see an opportunity, they take it. Simply put. And what differs a businessman from your average normie is a businessman follows a strategy. They calculate and they plan. And if you do not plan, you're not calculating, you're not implementing this into your day-to-day life, you're an average normie, right? You cannot exactly call yourself an entrepreneur because entrepreneurs follow a calculated path. They do not follow a random path or a guessing path. Everything happens for a reason. The more I understand this, the more it's engraved in my brain, the more logical decisions I start taking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Abdel Rahman, let's do a live red line. Okay. We won't look at the websites, we'll look at the business model. If a service provider is charging per hour and has 10 employees but zero systems, what does this business fix?
This is called a fragile entity. When you have 10 employees and no systems, this means your operational entropy is at an all-time high. So now it means we have to look back into the business and where the issue lies. When you have 10 employees and no systems, it means you're running a modern day slavery compound. You have to have systems in order to ensure that these employees aren't being overworked. The first and most important thing is we have to kill the hour. We move them from hourly to value-based pricing. Hourly rates punish efficiency. We want to reward results, not your time. The more we focus on time and less we focus on results, the more it becomes like we're playing poker and not running a business. Because, oh, I put in my time, I put in my money, so now I have to get an ROI. Okay, so but what results do you bring to the table? That's why hourly models do not really work unless you're a freelancer. And then we have to implement logic gating. You have to install an automated project management gate. Every task must pass through a system before it touches a human without any human interference. That system has to automate the tasks in order to ensure the right person receives the right task without any confusion in the work. And then we can implement the 30% rule. We will use AI integrated workflows to handle the repetitive checking and reporting. This usually allows the same 10-person team to handle twice the volume without hiring a single extra person. This is called optimization and utilization of resources. Understanding how to play the field with the cards you were dealt is the most important skill any businessman or any leader needs to have, because you won't always have the right cards on the game. Rather, you need to do what you can with the cards that you have currently, instead of blaming it on, oh my God, I do not have time, or oh my God, I do not have the manpower. You need to look at the manpower that you have, and you need to look at the time available. Squish them both together, come up with a solution. Not blame your circumstances, nor blame and look and compare with others. Because not everyone has the same circumstances. Keep in mind, they might have not went through your same circumstance, but they went through a circumstance that you may never go through. Simply put, so I have to utilize the resources that I have on hand and count my blessings and then come up with a solution. The more I delude myself and keep myself busy with finding an excuse to work, the less successful I am.
Mhm. Okay. Well, imagine a business approaches you for your services, and you see that this business is working in one region specifically, and their operations are doing fine, and their revenue stream is looking fine. What would you suggest to this business, and how would you go about helping them grow?
Expansion.
Mhm. Okay.
Again, business is a very simple method. And as simple as it is, once I finish a goal, I have to set the next goal. And once I finish that goal, I have to set the goal after it. After you're content and you are doing well for your own self, comes the next step of expansion. More money doesn't hurt anyone, right? Expansion doesn't really hurt anyone. But we also have to remember the key role or the key point of business. In order to make money, you have to spend money, because money makes money. Or, in its philosophical sense, numbers breed numbers. Very important note to remember that numbers breed numbers. The sooner I remember that, the more I recount on it, the better financial decisions I can make. So the first things you need to do is expansion. After you're content with the situation that you're in, it's time to expand. Could be expansion, maybe a new franchise in the same country, maybe a new franchise in the same region, maybe going to a different region. Either way, it depends on the circumstance, really. It's heavily circumstantial, but the next phase of the business at the current stage is expansion.
And how do you, well, you said expansion. How do you evaluate where to expand to? Would be, well, how do you assess which place it would be best to expand to? Let's say I am in the Turkish market and I'm a clothing brand. I am dominating here and I've been doing well. How would you assess which market would be best for me to expand into?
It's not a matter of where you need to expand, it's how you expand. You can expand anywhere. You can even expand into a different market. It doesn't matter. It's never about the where, it's about the why or the how. It's not, it was never about the where. Anyone can expand anywhere. It does not take a genius to expand. However, it's about the how. Can I implement the same strategies that I had in a foreign market? No, I cannot. I have to adapt to the local standards of the market. Very important, crucial factor. That's not a matter of, okay, I'm in the Turkish market. Can I expand? I'm forced to expand to Europe. No, there are many Middle Eastern brands that operate in Turkey. And Turkey is arguably a European market, because most of them are expanding to Istanbul, and Istanbul is in the European side of Turkey. So it's not a matter of where or how do we assess how, where do we go. No, it's about understanding how. You decide where you want to go, right? Then we decide the why and how. Simple. It's
Mhm.
not about, oh, I'm in point A, so I need to stay in region A. No, you can expand anywhere. There are many people who expanded into areas that doesn't really fit their niche, but they still expanded and dominated in that market. Like, for an example, Asus and Nvidia, Tesla, um, also Microsoft. Microsoft is everywhere. Meta. Meta has a headquarters in arguably every country now. So it doesn't really matter where you expand. It matters on the how you want to make the expansion.
Mhm. Okay. Well, let's say for the how. Let's say I'm a clothing brand and suddenly I want to expand into the Middle East
and I want to dive into a completely different sector. Let's say I want to go from a clothing brand in Turkey to a tech tech brand in the Middle East. Would this be a how that you would advise with, or how would you go about handling a client like this?
Anyone can enter anywhere. It's an
Hmm.
open field. It doesn't matter what your original job was. It doesn't matter what the original niche is. You can expand anywhere. The how comes in the resources and the utilizations that you have. Obviously, it has to make sense to a certain degree. A clothing brand cannot become a tech brand overnight, but it is possible. It's not impossible. It is possible. You can look at modern day figures who have done that, whether they're athletes or businesses. Any brand really can do that. And it's not about the impossibility or the ridiculousness of the situation. It is about how do you execute it. For an example, Faker. Faker is a prime example of how I go from a normal gamer into an athlete. And he built his entire brand around him being an athlete. But that doesn't make sense. A gamer isn't an athlete. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't need to make sense. It needs to be executed properly. It's not a matter of how much sense it makes to you because there's always logic behind it. To be completely frank, without Faker, esports wouldn't be an actual recognized sports today. You wouldn't go to different countries and see different esports tournaments and it's being recognized as a global sport. That wouldn't happen, right? Because Faker set the stage for it to happen. Faker went from your average League of Legends gamer to someone who's being gifted an honorary title and an honorary reward as the best athlete in the country, even though he has never done a physical sport in his life. He's doing a digital sport.
Hmm.
And now you can go anywhere. No one can deny the power of esports because, again, it's behind the logistics of it. It's not behind the, oh, it doesn't make sense to you. It might not make sense to you, but it makes sense to everyone. That's the problem. You don't look at how much sense it makes. You look at how do I do it. And simply put, Faker's jump wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a coincidence. It was a planned jump. He knew that he is arguably the best esports player to ever exist. Yes, by hands down, no one can deny Faker is the best esports player to ever exist. Just because he doesn't play other games doesn't mean he's not the best. No, he is the most recognized esports player. Anyone knows who Faker is. And he's not just recognized in his own country, he's recognized internationally. People want Faker to come, people want to meet Faker. So Faker already has an internationally recognized brand. Now Faker utilized that properly and pushed esports as a whole to become a sports market. Again, I'm not saying that Faker was the connoisseur, the ambassador of esports, but he played a very critical role into shifting esports into a recognized sport.
Hmm. Okay. Now I have another question. Let's say me, I'm expanding into a into a new region, and I've seen that my current models, my current tone, my current way of communicating has worked in my region. And I want to translate this also into the next region. Let's say someone from the UK who wants to start working in Serbia, for example. How would you go about explaining to them that this isn't the best way and to move forward?
Well, simply put, it's a realistic scenario. I have my own standards. I was brought up in a certain way, and I went to a different country. I have to strike the balance between keeping and living to my own standards and understanding the culture and regulations that are set out. I.e., you cannot force your own culture and standards into an entire country, right? That is impossible. You physically cannot do that. So, what do I do next? Since I know I cannot do that, but I don't want to give up my own what's it called? I don't want to give up my own standards or my own culture, the way I used to live. Simple. You don't have to give it up to actually shine in a set country. No, you can keep your own standards, be proud of who you are. At the same time, abide by the regulations set out in that market. So you can keep, for an example, the British heritage of your company, translate it into Slovakian, right? Very easy and simply put. Any act in business can be translated into real life daily things, right? So, for an example, a Muslim who goes into a Christian country, you cannot really change the faith of the country. So now I have to look at it in a logical way. I don't want to convert into Christianity, nor do I want to live by their standards. Their standards isn't forced upon you, but there are regulations and laws that you have to follow in their country. Do I give up the laws of my own religion? No, I still abide by them, but I have to remember that I am in a foreign country. This is not my country. I cannot force the change in this country. So I have to stick to that country's standards while maintaining my own standards. Easily put. It doesn't matter to what market you want to expand to. Keeping your own standards and trying to force it into a market isn't really going to change the market or shake it. No, you're going to fail. Same thing applies to you. If you go to a country that, for an example, a Christian country while you're a Muslim, you cannot really force Islam into the country. You're not going to change their method of ruling. That's not how it works. But what I can do is keep my own heritage, right? Expand on it and abide by the regulations. Accept the fact that you are entering a place or entering a market that doesn't really resonate with your own heritage. Okay. Is it the end of the world? No. But I want to sell in this market, so I have to now abide by the regulations and the standards set out in the market.
That answer makes perfectly a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go with one more scenario here. And this is going to be revolved around the pricing model. Well, let's say I am a clinic, a beauty clinic, and I have a pricing model where for each session I would charge $1,000. That's my first package. My second package would cost $1,500, and then the third package would cost somewhere around $1,600. And you come in here and you evaluate my pricing model. How would you evaluate it? What would you say the mistakes are, and how would you change it?
First of all, a beauty clinic is arguably one of the worst niches you can be in. You can take it as a hit or be offended if you'd like, but it is arguably one of the worst business models you can be in. One, it's oversaturated. Two, it's expanding or heavily critical of something or a weakness. See, businesses are built in one of two ways. Either you're solving a problem or you're capitalizing on a weakness, one or the other. So if you're solving a problem, for an example, look at Amazon. Amazon solved the problem of accessibility to products, right? Anything you want, you can order online from Amazon without having to move an inch out of your own couch. So that's a problem Amazon solved. Weakness, on the other hand, is business models revolved around utilizing a weakness in either a man or a woman. Now, both business models work. Both business models are profitable. The only difference is one, it needs that weakness to exist in order to continue the business model. The other can work independently, right? So to me, any business model that focuses on someone's weakness is already a failing business model, because at some point that weakness is going to get fixed. Not now, but soon enough, right? What are you going to do then? This is a very important factor to remember. If you want to make money in business, you have to focus on a problem to solve, not a weakness to utilize. Because beauty in itself isn't a problem. You can look more pretty, I guess. But the more I capitalize on a weakness such as lust or beauty or poverty, for an example, like there are businesses that focus on poverty, which apparently is a successful business model. So the longer I focus on these, the longer or down the line, my main selling point isn't going to be there, right? My unique value isn't going to be there. So since beauty is an oversaturated market that focuses on weakness, the most important thing is to be unique. In any market, funny enough, you have to be unique. You need to have a unique selling proposition or a unique selling value, whatever you want to name it. So it's either the USP or the USV. Doesn't matter. The pricing model in itself, the way you look at a pricing model is We do not set random prices for no reason. There is a psychology behind setting prices. We need to understand why a price was being set. No one throws a random price for no reason. No. In sales, there is a policy, there is a philosophy that you have to follow, is that you shift the client's attention from the amount into value. And the faster I do that, the higher I can set the price. It doesn't matter. I can sell sand in a desert if you will, right? Because you're not looking at the price of the sand at that point. You're looking at the value of the sand. Oh, I can create my own desert. So one of two ways you can easily go about this. Either you change the pricing model into a value-backed model by making it a tier price list, or you change the price entirely. Or again, heavily circumstantial. It depends on the market you're in. It depends on the circumstance it is. So the answer is going to be very basic and hypothetical here.
Yeah.
On the why or the how, I mean, you got the how and why. The why would you assess it? Again, there's nothing called I put a price so I stick by it. No, there has to be a psychology behind it. There's a reason discounts and sales happen, right? Because we know we're not selling, so we put it, or we want to sell more, or we have an overstock of my inventory, so I want to sell that. So simply put, the how depends on the circumstance. Excuse me, the why depends on the circumstance. The how is, again, also circumstantial. So in this specific case, you have to set out a unique value. I need to stop focusing on the $1,000 price and structure it properly. You can even increase the price in the structure itself as long as you're focused on selling value, not selling price. The more greedy you are, right, the easier it appears. Keep that in mind. Any bad trade that you have in you is accelerated by your dealing or your interactions with people. So, for an example, if you're greedy, it appears in your actions, right? You don't have to say that you're greedy, it appears in your actions, which is the beauty of interaction with people. If you're arrogant, it appears in your actions. You don't need to say that you're arrogant, it appears. Now, obviously, humans can be deceived, and they can misperceive what's in front of them, but we take things at face value. If you're a simpleton, you want to take things at face value. So we deal with it as a normal circumstance of let's take things at face value without the consideration of what's behind the scenes. So let's take things at face value. If you're greedy by nature, it's going to appear that you're greedy. So if you're so focused on money, you're so chasing on money, it's going to appear that you're chasing money. It's going to easily look that you are looking for money. Prime example is medical tourism clinics. You can go to any medical tourism clinics, click on the reviews, and you will heavily see that majority of the customers that go to these medical tourism clinics were sold something that wasn't reality. And they know that. They're aware of it, because the issue with these people is that you are too greedy. As a salesman, you need to keep your integrity in place. Yeah, I sell the delusion of value, but at the same time, I have to understand, are we actually giving value or not? I'd rather keep the same customer coming back than lose the customer because I lied to the customer. Again, this falls back into the same idea of deluding the consumer, selling him a reality that is impossible to come to life. So, for an example, if I have a completely bald man, not a single hair on his head, there is no way this man can do a hair transplant. So why are you selling him hair transplant? That does not make sense. Why are you deluding the person? And again, if you do not have integrity in your work, remember that there is a creator out there who's watching you. And if you're so scared, and if your money is so important to you that you'd sell your own standards because I have to make money, or your job is threatened, then maybe you're not working in the right field, right? Maybe the field you're working in isn't exactly an honorable field. So simply put, the way you are or the way you position yourself is the way you're perceived. We need to keep that always in mind. You cannot be too greedy in the price, and you need to always show the value behind it while backing the value behind it.
Okay. Well, we have a bit of an announcement to make here. Well, Businessera is officially soft launches next month. But for people who have stayed with us throughout season 2, there is an early access offer. Abdel Rahman, would you like to tell them what it is?
I mean, yeah. Right now, we have 3 spots for founders who are successful but exhausted. You see, Businessera is your partner in growth. The 90-minute business architecture sprint is an intervention. We will tear down your current model, find the leaks, and hand you the blueprint for a sovereign machine. If you want a chat, call a friend. If you want a restructure, go to the link.
Alright, and the link should be in the comments in a moment. Okay. Well, Abdurrahman, we are in the last 10 nights of Ramadan. It's time. It's the time of truth. The season of Elevate was about lifting the veil on marketing. It's only fitting we end by building the foundation of business.
Okay.
Would you like to tell us a little bit more?
I guess, sure. What is the question?
Can you tell us a little about how you implement religion in business? How do you balance between your religion and when you do business?
Well, any successful business is built on religious standards per se. So, for an example, a business is built on trust or truth. You have to be honest about, obviously, you're not going to give up the magician's code here, but you also have to be realistic when you're speaking to a client. For an example, I rejected many clients because I genuinely do not have a fix for their problem, right? There is nothing wrong with rejecting a client or being honest with a client. Rather than scam a client and tell them, oh yeah, we do have the solution, and it turns out we did not have the solution. It's always good to be honest with the client. And if you physically cannot do it, or you don't know where the issue lies, or you do not have the solution, it's much better to let the client go to someone who knows how to do it. You can lose a client, but you earn the trust of this client. This client can come back later with a problem that you have the solution to, rather than sending them into a problem that you have no solution to, and then giving them a bad taste of your own company. Trust is very important. A lot of people are westernizing the definition of trust, while trust by nature definition means amana. And amana by English definition is responsibility. Trust is upholding responsibility. It's not keeping secrets. Keeping secrets, it's not your job to keep secrets. It's God's job to keep secrets. Responsibilities are what needs to be upheld. I have a duty towards someone. I have a duty towards the business. I have a duty towards whatever. I have to uphold that duty, right? Whether I like it or not. Duties come in 2 forms. Either they're bestowed upon you or you pick them up. If they're bestowed upon you, they're much more heavier than you picking them up. Why? Because if I do not fulfill a duty that was given to me, then I am a traitor in the eyes of the religion. I have officially went out of the fold of the duty standards that was set out by the religion. So being lazy is also treason to that duty. Being comfortable is treason to that duty. And the more treasons you commit, the faster you normalize and rationalize the horrible road that you're leading down. So applying religion, again, any trade that you pick up, before you apply it in business, you have to apply it in your daily life. And religion isn't exactly mandates that came down from God for you to follow. No, Islam in itself is a lifestyle, something you live on. You don't pick and choose what you want to live on, obviously. Clearly, you cannot pick and choose what you live on. And if you choose the right, then you have to maintain the right in everywhere. If you choose, you cannot play around with right and wrongs, my friend. No, you have to pick the rights, and the rights have to outweigh the wrongs. Rationalizing, justifications, these are all excuses and justifications that you throw out to make sure that, what I'm doing is right, what I'm doing is correct. Or, for an example, the most common justification is the times have changed. Okay, I mean, the times have changed, but the decree is still there, though. The decree wasn't sent upon a certain time, no. Application of the decree can change, yes, but the decree itself is still there. It wasn't shaken, nor was it changed. The decree did not come down upon a time, because if it was, then the Quran in itself would not have been preserved until today. We would have gotten a different book if religion is depending on time. No, it's only the application that depends on time. Like for an example, traveling, right? Traveling back then was on camels, right? Traveling was a different, what is it called? It was a different practical reality than it is today. Today we have airplanes. Yes, back then when the religion came down or unveiled, they were traveling by camels, by horses, by donkeys, by wagons, whatever you want to call it. Today we have airplanes. So the practicality of travel, the decree of travel is still there. It did not change. Only the practicality of it changed. The application itself changed. That's it. So we don't look at the logic behind the reasoning. We don't need the logic behind the reasoning. The first and most important thing is we have to remember when someone asks you about a thing or about a ruling or about a defined decree, the most important answer is not the reasoning behind it. Rather, it's because we were commanded. This is the reason. What you explain is an explanation. It's not a reason. It's what you think. And what you think doesn't really impact, nor does it define the ruling. So we have to remember that as soon as I get asked about something, like for an example, how do I maintain religion in my life? It's because I was commanded to. Simply put, I was commanded by the religion to uphold the religion in my life, and I do that. Okay, so now comes my explanation of why, which is the explanation that I provided. So simply put, a life without religion is a life without law. And if we don't have rules, we live in the jungle. We live like animals. And if we live like animals, then the strongest prevails. And if the strongest prevails, then this is an unjust society. If there is no equal opportunity, because we were all created equal, and if there is no equal opportunity, then this is an unjust society where the strong only prevails. Hence why capitalism is a very disgusting implementation of money. And to me, I would never apply the capitalist model in my life. As successful as it is, it's a very disgusting model to follow, because it is literally a model where the strongest prevails. And this isn't exactly a fair argument or a fair circumstance, because we were all created equally, i.e., I have the opportunity to make as much money as the next person. As long as that is in place, what comes next is playing the rules of the field. I have to understand that in order to make money like the next person, I cannot sit on my ass. I actually have to move. Right? Very important thing. Right? It's not just about giving your opinions on some things, because you're not a philosopher, nor are you a messenger, nor are you. No one cares about your opinion, right? But what matters ultimately is the effort that you put in. And if you do not put in all of your effort, you do not have the right for regret. You cannot regret because, I did not put in my effort. No, you had the opportunity to put in your effort, you did not. You have no right to regret. And instead, actually, I'd commend you on it, and I'd double down on it and call you a crybaby, because you did not put in the effort. So you do not have the right to cry about it.
Okay. That was a great answer, Mr. Abdel Rahman. Well, I have a few questions here to get to know you a little bit more as a businessman. I'd like to peek a little under the hood and get to know you a little bit deeper when it comes.
No, a magician doesn't really reveal his secrets, but sure.
Okay. What are some principles or non-negotiables guide on how you build systems, teams, and long-term value?
There's nothing called non-negotiable in standards of business. Everything is negotiable. The same system isn't going to work the same for the next system. You have to be advantageous and you have to be adaptable. You have to understand the circumstance in front of you. There's nothing called non-negotiable. No, you have to negotiate. You have to be reasonable. This isn't a matter of right and wrong. This isn't religion. This is a business. And in business, we have to test. So for an example, if I set out a system for a perfume store, it's not going to work the same for a technology firm. That's not how it works. Each business has its own solution. All of it is tailored towards them. The more you implement the same solutions, the easier your selling model looks, right? Now I can start implementing it. So you cannot say it's non-negotiable. because business isn't ruled by standards, it's ruled by results. And results come from trying, not by repeating the same thing.
Okay. Well, how do you personally make high stakes decisions when data is incomplete or uncertain or uncertain?
High stakes decisions are predetermined. Whether you like it or not, decisions and risks are predetermined. The sooner you accept that fact, the faster you start taking these decisions and making the risks. Simply put. Data isn't always going to be complete, nor will you have the complete picture. Does that stop? No, it doesn't stop you. The more scared you are of taking risks, the faster you fail as a businessman. Because business is all about risk taking. And if it pans out, it panned out. If it did not pan out, good. It's something to learn off. And you can take the same risk 3, 4, 5 times. What is the difference between them? You learned from that first risk, so you don't take down the same road, right? This is called predetermined thinking. You understand that this is pre-decreed, خلاص, you do it. I don't need to worry about, oh, that isn't incomplete, because the picture isn't always going to be full. And even if it is full, there are still things you haven't considered. You can never have a complete data sheet. You set the parameters, right? As long as I'm the one setting the parameters of the sample, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't really matter. I can make the decision based on the limited data I have, or I can collect even more data to make a more informed decision, or I can make a decision without data to begin with. All of these are valid, right? All of these are possible. The only difference is to understand that whatever the outcome is, I accept it and I hold myself accountable to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What is a failure that you experienced that forced you to completely rethink your operating model?
I don't look at failures. I don't do failures. I look at lessons. See, the more you label it as a failure, the more you delude yourself into thinking that, oh, I'm failing. It's not a failure. It's a lesson that you learn. And in my own personal career, all of the failed results are lessons. It's not a specific lesson that changes. No. Again, a lot of people seem to think that you need to that an epiphany needs to fall on you to change your ways. No, an epiphany does not need to change or fall on you to change your place. No, you can change by your own self, because God already mentioned that God doesn't change what is within people until people change what's within themselves. So we already understand that change isn't going to happen until you change yourself, right? And if you do not change your own mindset and mentality, then I hate to break it to you, الوحي isn't going to come down on you and tell you, oh, you're leading a bad life. No. You have to look at that yourself and understand that, okay, so I made a bad decision here. This was a lesson. What did I do wrong? Understand what you did wrong in order to prevent it from happening again, which is the most or the complete picture of growth. Growth isn't doing rights without wrongs. No, that's being a perfectionist. Growth is doing rights, turning them into, sorry, growth is about doing wrongs, turning them into rights. And in order to turn wrongs into rights, I first have to see wrongs. If I'm not seeing wrongs to begin with, then you're not really growing. You're just walking, right? There is no growth there. Nothing happened. You're still the same you. You're still blind to your own mistakes. You're still blind to the errors that you did, and you think and you rationalize and you justify them. So where is the growth in that sphere? What exactly are you growing out of? You're only growing in age. You're not growing in reality.
Okay. Well, when you evaluate a business today, what are the first three signals you look at to determine if it's fundamentally strong or fragile?
Positioning, standing, and reviews, practically speaking. You have to
What?
look at the business internally, externally, and its position in the market. These are the most crucial things you have to look at. And whatever factor you want to pick to reach your conclusion, it doesn't matter as long as it follows the standard, which is internally, externally, and positioning in the market. So externally, it is how it's received. Position in the market is how it's doing in the market. Internally is what it's looking like inside. And whatever factor you pick, and any of them is good, right? It doesn't matter. There isn't exactly a specific factor that you have to pick, rather it's a standard that you have to follow.
Okay. Well, what are some patterns that you consistently see in founders who fail to scale beyond a certain point?
It's not a pattern in a founder, rather it's a pattern in people. There is a beauty in ignorance. People are ignorant by nature. There are two types of people. There are ones who are resistant to the truth, which are people you physically cannot debate with, because they're resistant to the truth. They know it's there. They understand it's the truth. They just don't want to take it. And there are ones who are ignorant of the truth. Those can be spoken to. Those can be reasoned with. Why can't you reason with ones who are hesitant to truth or resistant to it? Because they understand it's the truth, right? They know it's the truth. They justify it, they rationalize it, and they bring up any excuse to not accept it. So, what are you trying to reason with them? So what reason are you trying to reach with them? And the same pattern applies to founders, all right? Because again, all mistakes you find in founders are mistakes you find in humans in general. And unfortunately, these two types of people are actually standardized today. You have someone who acts as a Muslim, but picks the truths that he wants and rejects the others. You're treating Islam as if it's a menu that you pick and choose what you want. And it doesn't just apply religiously, it also applies in a real life stake. You cannot treat everything as a menu where I take what I want and ignore what else I don't need or I'm not interested in. That's not how it works. Like, for an example, if you go into a business, oh, I like operations, I like marketing, I don't like sales. So let's exclude sales. No, that's not how it works. You need all of them. You need the full picture in order to actually apply the thing properly, whatever the thing might be. Same thing in religion. You cannot pick and choose what you want. It's not how it works. You either take it as a whole or don't say that you're a Muslim. Right? You cannot have it both ways. You cannot play in the middle line, have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and act like a Muslim. That's not how it works. Same thing in a business. You cannot have 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and act as a businessman. You're not a businessman. You're a scared child. And same thing in religion. You're not a Muslim. You're a hypocrite. That's not how it works. You have to accept it fully, understand you did your wrongs, stop doing your wrongs. All right? Same thing in a business. Understand that you need set department, accept that you need it, bring it. It's not a pattern in founders, it's a pattern in humans. Error lies within humans, not with the founders or the business itself. Usually, most of the errors that you find in the business always revolts back to an error within the founder or an error within an employee. It's always human error, which is why we emphasize on systems, because systems do not make mistakes. This is why people are rushing to replace people with systems, because they know humans are empathetic, they're very emotional, and they're easily manipulated and influenced. So as long as that is the case, I either hire a slave or I bring a system that do not make mistakes, which is why we have modern day slavery in many of the job markets around the world, because they want people who do not question. They want people who understand what they have to do and follow it to the brim. A system does exactly that. When you follow it to the brim without questioning, without understanding, what happens? You become a slave. And when you become a slave, yeah, you don't do mistakes, true, but at the same time, preventing human error means preventing human thinking. You need error to improve. However, at the same time, being resistant to change is the complete opposite of what you need to be. You cannot be resistant to change. You have to accept that we all make mistakes, understand that it's a mistake, and learn from it, not rationalize it into saying, oh, the times have changed, or this is right. No, I want to do this, or he's my uncle, or he's my brother, or whatever. That's not how it works. There is no place for emotion in anywhere on this world. Emotion is in a household. You have to be gentle with your own family, not in a business. There is no place for gentleness or emotion in business. Business is purely operating on logic. A is bad, business is bad. A is good, business is good. Individual X is horrendous, operation is horrendous. Simply put, like, it's always logistics, it's always logical. The more you look at it, the more logical it makes, like the more logical it looks. You cannot justify business with you saying, oh, I feel this way. There is no place for your feelings in this world or on business. No one cares about your feelings, nor does the business. The business cares about truth. And the truth isn't subjective, it's objective. The faster you realize that, the faster you pick yourself up, the faster you fix your mistakes.
Okay. Final question here. How has your definition of a successful business changed over time?
It hasn't changed per se, rather the circumstances itself changed. Success in itself, yeah, a lot of people can say it's subjective, but it's actually objective. Success or being successful means that, I mean, if you want to put it in a subjective light, some people think it's money, others think it's fame, some others think it's foundation, others think it's legacy. But there is an objective answer to success. Success is changing from who you were to who you are. This is success. You started the business for a reason, you achieved that reason. This is success. It's objective. Subjectivity comes in when you define it. Whatever you want to define it is up to you. Everyone has a different label on success. So it's not really my idea of success that changed, it's the circumstances that enable success that changed, especially with the introduction to AI. AI, again, AI or artificial intelligence is the biggest change all markets are going to feel. There isn't a single market that isn't going to be affected by AI. And people are ignorant of it because, take for an example, marketing. Marketing is currently impacted by AI. Even though marketing as a field cannot be fully taken over by AI, but it is still being impacted by AI. And for whatever weird reason, people are resistant to it. Or you can't be resistant to AI when it's an ultimatum. AI is something that's going to happen whether you like it or not. You cannot be scared of AI. AI is a tool to be utilized. It's not something to be scared of. And it's not something to worship either. Very important factors, right? Yeah, do not completely neglect it. Do not completely depend on it. You have to find the line in the middle. I need to understand how to utilize AI to the best of its capabilities, not mine. Because your capabilities are limited. AI's capabilities are unlimited. That's the difference. So AI is a tool to be used. Think of AI as the most perfect employee you can get. Am I going to give the keys to the business to this employee? No. It's still my business. But I will utilize this employee where they shine best, which is everywhere, frankly speaking. So you cannot be resistant to change. You have to understand that change is a constant. It's inevitable. I have to accept change. The sooner you accept it, the faster your brain reprograms itself into finding out how to use AI properly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Abdel Rahman. Well, before I end the episode here, is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners with? Any piece of advice? Anything I haven't focused on that you would like to specify a little bit more about Businessera or about being a businessman?
Businessera in itself is the future, and it is your partner in growth. No, it's not me who says it, it's the system who says it. So when you come to Businessera, you do not expect your average business solution firm, you expect someone who grows with you. And regarding business, before you fix your own business, you need to fix yourself. Words cannot enter one ear and leave out the other. Words has to enter one ear and resonate with you. Very important advice, very important step to remember, because it's very easy to be lazy, to be delusional, to be comfortable. Very easy. It's the easy choice out. But the harder choice is confronting those habits. So the advice is Businessera is there to fix your business's lazy habits. And in order for you to become a better businessman, you need to fix your own lazy habits.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Abdel Rahman. It's been a pleasure to have you here, as always. And to all of our listeners, Season 2 is a wrap. And the era of sovereign business begins now. Ramadan Kareem, and please take care. Goodbye.